They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here at episode 252 of The Magic Guys, the podcast where we interview professionals, we talk about our lives as professionals, and hope you learn a thing or two, or at least have a good laugh on the ride home from your gig. But to my left, I've got Nick K.
Hi guys, I'm Nick K, and next to me we have...
who is next to you? It's not me.
You, Doug. It's...
Wait, I'm
we're
on the
doing it
bottom.
live,
No.
people. We're doing it live.
I'm
We
on
all
the
know that-
bottom. I am
we
not
all
next
know
to
that-
you.
I
I'm
didn't want to
below
call you a bottom on this broadcast.
My name's Doug Kahn, and I couldn't be more excited about tonight's show. As I was telling my wife, our guest tonight is a boss. Hello.
Certified
That's
boss.
right. Yeah, should we get
We've
into
got-
it?
Yeah, I mean, and just quick hello to our guest, Scotty Link. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for the little something that's on the way. Very kind of you. We'll talk more about that. Scotty P,
Yeah.
we just saw him at the Brisbane Theatre of Magic. He came to and he showed us a few little pieces of magic he's working on. Very cool as well.
Dope.
And Robbie
Howdy,
P.
Rob. We have
I was
Tim
waiting for
Askin.
one more person. Thank you.
Yeah.
Boom.
And it's
Now I
Magic Guys
feel
for being
like...
here. As
Yeah,
you
now
know,
I
this
feel like
is
we're ready.
stop talking over. Okay, now, so guys, this is a live show, unrehearsed, where we constantly talk over each other. There is a comment section, so you can have all the questions you need to ask our guests, which I would love to announce. Friends, today's guest is one of the most original performers we probably had on the show. One of the most original performers in modern magic. He actually has over 1 million followers on TikTok and a resume the length of a Bible, which is great because he has a beard like Jesus. Performing at London's West End, and today he is here on the Magic Guys podcast. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kieron Johnson. Kieron Johnson, welcome to the Magic Guys Live. Please tell our friends, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Kieron. I do magic, bubbles, and weird stuff, I guess. And yeah, a bit of an inventor and just a guy that does stuff, basically.
We'll take it. But you
Yeah.
know, you do a lot more than just that. But
I
Thank you for
just
being here,
dumped
by the way.
coffee all over my desk, so I'll be muted for a few minutes.
excellent.
Sorry.
Where's
Just
it
as
going?
we had planned.
Typical Doug. Yeah, I do more than that. I just never really know how to describe myself because I don't really ever think of myself as being one thing. And then everyone else is so obsessed with me being one thing. And the whole thing about me is I just kind of do things. So
Yeah,
I never really...
that's very true. You know, Kieron, a lot of folks prefer to create with restriction, but it seems that your magic truly knows no bounds. And I actually had this down as a question, do you actually have any limits to the magic you create? Like whether it be physically or ethically or anything of that nature? Where do you see yourself stopping? Are you boundless?
I just do what I want. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But I've never believed in these rules. I never understand why magicians, they have this whole thing where they go, I'm a coin guy. I do everyday magic. Surely if you're a magician, you do everything. That's why a magician doesn't go, I'm a magician. And I have this theory, and I'm sure lots of people disagree with me, but Gandalf, he's a wizard, right? He isn't. He doesn't just do magic. He is magic, and I think as a magician or a performer, if you're going to embody that, that's what you should be, and you should be thinking about that. I think when we start limiting ourselves, saying, "Oh, well, I only do this," or "I'm a minimalist," or "I'm this," we end up putting ourselves in a box, and I think we hurt ourselves more than we think because we think we're doing this cool thing. I think magicians like to think if we only do this and I focus on this, then I'm cool. But really, you're just doing yourself a disservice because you're never growing. I started working on the linking ring 6 months ago. I had a lot of pushback from my friends. They go, "Why are you doing this?" They always do this to me. I'm like, and I'm showing them. And now I've created loads of really new original moves. I show Matthew Garrett. at the session, my new moves, and now he wants to publish them. I don't know if I want to publish them. I'm on the fence because I kind of just want to keep my stuff for myself. But you know, I think as a magician, we should be looking at like, rather than be I'm in a box. It's not even that thinking outside the box. It's just not thinking with restriction. I think that's one of the biggest things that I never really think that there's a restriction. I just think if I want to do it, I'm going to do it, or I'll figure out how to do it if I can. And don't get me wrong, I love classic magic. I love the egg bag. I love linking rings. I love classic card magic, but I also like alternative magic as well. But I think that, and I also like faux magic. I hate saying that. I hate like faux magic because I feel like I'm selling out when I say that. But I like all magic in terms of magic.
Yeah, it seems like the restriction comes from almost title, you know, Kevin the Mind Reader, you know, Bob the Cardsmith, you know, Jeff the Coin Guy. Like, I feel like that's where the restriction comes from. But creatively, I think for me, the restrictions only come from me not wanting to do an effect a certain way. For example, if I'm going to vanish a coin, it might not be like, I want to vanish a coin. I'll just do a false transfer. No. The restriction is no false transfers. Has to be with a sleeve up, and it has to be with one hand, and I have to show my hand back and forth. Like, that's where I create restrictions. I think that's what gives me direction. Do you find yourself creating in the same way when you do your pieces of magic, or do you just ultimately think of the effect and don't care how you get there?
I don't think it matters how you get there, because an audience doesn't go, oh my God, he didn't do that or this. They just went, it vanished. A vanish should look like a vanish. No matter if you do this vanish, that vanish, that vanish, it should look the same. I think weirdly, magicians start thinking, well, if I do this, it won't look, it should just look the same no matter what. And I know that sounds hard because then you got to think, well, how can I get there? But I think any effect that you do shouldn't have the restriction of the method. It should just be, I'm going to do that trick. As long as I do it as well, it doesn't really matter how I get there, because only us care about the integrity of the sleeves. You know, I found this really recently with my Rubik's Cube, that I've got so fast with the cube in the hand that people started thinking that my cube is special. But they never used to think that, but because I'm doing it all the time and I got so fast and quick at it now, But now I'm just like, but at first that irked me because I was thinking I've worked really hard to get to this level. But then I thought, you know what? Now I can just put it down and I know what they're going to say. I know what they're thinking. So now I can go 50 quid if you want to buy it. I'll take card. And that creates the laugh because they're all thinking it. So now they're like, and then now what I've done is I've dispelled that by going, oh, fuck, it's not, just with a joke. So I don't have to think, oh, no, I need to slow down, do it less, do it better. I just know, I know that's what they're thinking. Tell a joke, that dispels it. They then go, fuck, excuse my language, but oh my goodness, he did that. And now that you're just watching their minds explode inside, just by thinking about that. So I think we don't have to compromise on our sleights or our movement. We just have to think about how are we selling it. I think performance isn't really about the moves and the magic. An audience doesn't care how you do a trick. They just want to know the trick's done well, I think, anyway. And it doesn't matter how good you are, how brilliant you are, how clever you are at cards. You're always going to have someone that thinks they know. And you can't compete. Like, there's no bad thing with that. It's just that's human nature. But there's always another audience. I never fight an audience. If I'm not having a good time with an audience member, then I'll just walk off because I don't have. It's my time as well, right? You know, I think sometimes as a magician we think, oh, I have to stand there. Not that I have a bad time, because the problem I start saying this, the magicians will be like, oh no, he has bad time. It's not that. It's just I respect myself enough to know that I don't care because I know I'm good enough. So if they don't want to, if they don't feel I'm good enough, that's okay because I'm okay with who I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
This, ladies and gentlemen, this is the point of view of an artist, not a craftsman, right? It's someone who approaches things with a unique point of view. And congratulations, Kieron, and hey, thanks for existing.
Now, before we get to where you're performing right now, doing 7 shows a week, which is so awesome, and especially if you're getting to like learn little bits of how audiences react the same each night, so great. But before that, you mentioned something that got you started before this, which was performing at a place called The Box. And I know it's quite a prolific place, but I have not heard of it before. So it's kind of a great time to tell me and maybe some of the viewers that haven't heard of it what that is. Okay.
So I didn't start off at The Box. I just accidentally fell into The Box after lockdown. I originally my first proper gig was a magic bar in England called Illusions Magic Bar, run by Mark Bennett in Bristol, and that was my first experience of being a magician.
What did you do there, Kieron? I'm curious what you were performing at that place.
So I started off by doing all the same stuff everyone else did. So I started off with Omnideck and things like that. You know, the standard magic that most magicians did. But the problem I had is Mark didn't like that. So he told us that we had to change our set and it couldn't be anything anyone else was doing. So I started thinking about stuff I could do. And as I was walking home, I found a brick. And then I thought, oh, would it be cool if I make a brick out of my hat? I heard stories of this guy called Bruce, terrible, like Golden Bruce. And he produced the brick. And I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if I can produce the brick. So then I thought, how am I going to, but now I'm like, started reading this book on Bellini, and I'm like, well, I want to commit to carrying a brick. So I started carrying a brick with me everywhere I went and strapping it on me. And I would walk around wherever I went with a brick strapped to my back, thinking, and I started thinking about that magic and that mentality. And I started playing around with ideas like, oh, what if I did chop cup, but the chop cup ended up with gravy granules, and then I produced a whole load of gravy. And then I started thinking, well, what if I started messing with hot and cold? What if I produced a plate and then produced an entire food and then ate the food in front of the audience while chatting to them? Like this whole idea that magic was just happening around me, rather to them and to me, it was part of who I was.
How old were you at this theater? Like how?
I'm about 24 at this point in my life, and then 2 years before that, I'd spent in a hometown living in the squat, riding a train for free up and for £4 up and down from where I lived to Liverpool, and I would just do magic to anyone that would watch me. And I guess I was doing traditional stuff, but I would throw in weird stuff, like I would razor blade swallow on the train. I don't know why. And I guess even back then I was creating my own tricks. I was really fascinated with like the story of the guy that sold his soul at the crossroads. I loved that. So I played with tricks like that, and I liked storytelling and things. So even then I was playing with stuff.
This is the kind of material that lands you at the box, and that happens after your success on social media, which I'd like to get back to and focus on that specifically. And
yeah,
let's go back to what Josh's question about the box. What's going on there? Explain the venue. What are you doing?
Well, so like I just wanted to give you a sense of where I was with the magic and stuff.
So on that note, sorry, Kieron, like how far back does your magic journey begin? Was it pretty late in life?
I started when I was 22, and then I got and I basically ended up in Illusions after being homeless for a while. I met Rocco Solano, and he was really kind to me. He gave me a suit and gave me some money and told me I needed to get out of this town and figure something out. So I went to Bristol, and I basically turned up on the door with a bin bag full of clothes, and asked him if I could have a job, and he laughed. I said, I've got nowhere to stay, and I ended up staying there. And next thing you know, I'm there for 2 years. I meet my wife a few months later. We've been together since. And then
this is like the best origin story I've ever heard.
Yeah. So
Rocco funded me and gave me a suit, and then I met my wife, and let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I worked there for 2 years, and it was interesting. And then I did Ross Stevens came in, and Mark recommended my trick, the To The Max, which is the fire to ice production. And then that became a hit, which was like my first release was like a smash hit. And then I did like Chaotic after that, and then other stuff. So then I was lecturing and performing and residencies, and then I started doing consulting, and it was pretty cool. And then COVID came, and I was working on TV shows and behind the scenes things, but I was never really very successful. I was working, I was doing gigs. So when I say not very successful, I was like working regular spots. I wasn't really I was doing gigs for £100 at residencies and things like that. And I get the occasion gigs, but I wasn't like raking it in as a performer. But I was enjoying performing and teaching. And then COVID happened, and obviously the whole world stopped. And then I started doing social media. But during that time, what I don't know, many people know, is my daughter Ellie was born. And she spent the first few months of her life in intensive care. and she has something called Down syndrome, which you probably do know. I feel like I'm talking to you like you wouldn't know what that is, but she has Down syndrome, and I was trying to connect with her, and I started reading about other things, and I started blowing bubbles for her, and they told us that she probably wouldn't talk or move and stuff. And the first time I blew a bubble was the first time she reached her arm out. It was the first time we saw physical movement and noise. I like to think it was laughter, but it was noise, and that's what gave me the passion for bubbles. And then the whole world went crazy. Ellie came off oxygen just in time, because obviously we were having discussions with doctors about running out of oxygen, which is the maddest thing. Like when you think about, like, you're talking about possibly not getting something that you've always taken for granted that you could get, because the pandemic started coming quite hard. And I was actually a week before the pandemic happened, I was actually flew out to America to do America's Got Talent, to do the regurgitation, which I'll talk about more in a minute. And when I got to America, they basically didn't do the auditions, and I got sent back home. So there's me thinking, finally, I'm getting my break. I've been on Italian TV. I've been working as a magician behind the scenes, working for all these magicians, doing all the things that I've been working my ass off. Got myself, did well on German telly, did really well on Italy TV. And I'm like, now I'm heading to America. My life is about to change. This is it. I'm gonna blow up, and I'm not just gonna be that guy at a convention that invents tricks that everyone does. Because I think one of the hardest things for me when I was at that point in my life is I was watching everyone else do my stuff on telly and have success with it, but I was still working for £100 in a wine
Have
bar.
you been on America's Got Talent? I feel like I saw you there.
No, I was going to go on the same year Ryan Trix was on, but I came in later and the pandemic happened. I got sent home from LA, so it never happened. But I did. So now I'm back in England. I'm obviously my daughter's like still not quite well. I don't really know what's going on with life. COVID happens, and then I start, like, obviously I had that experience with Ellie with the bubbles, and I thought, this is something I really like doing. I'm going to explore this more. So I started blowing bubbles for her and my son, and and for the first few months I just did it to myself, and I would make fun videos for friends, but I wouldn't post them because I didn't really understand TikTok. I didn't really get what it was about. I posted a few videos before that, but I didn't really understand what you had to do or what was good views. And I ended up meeting this bunch of magicians that were all in a group that were all like trying to push each other, and the whole idea was it was like this motivational thing. And I was watching them all blow up, but they were all doing the same thing. They were all like going, "Oh, if it's a red card, you have to follow. If it's a black card," and it was all that crap. And I didn't want to do that. And I remember doing the bubbles and them all laughing. And then I kept posting because my friend said I should post, and I started posting the videos, and I started exploring and playing around with things. And finally, I did a video where I cook a marshmallow with a bubble, and I turned it into a flamethrower, and that video went viral. And then all those videos that no one watched, which had like 50 views, suddenly all got views. And then before you knew it, I was like at 100,000. Then I started doing other stuff. I started doing my regurgitation stuff, my smoke tricks. I did a whole series called X-Men Ability before the bubbles, really. The bubbles helped me get there. Then the X-Men abilities really helped me get to the next level. And then I went back to bubbles. And on my TikTok, very much so, I was more of an experimentalist with different styles. Very much on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, I've always been particularly just bubbles. But on TikTok, I did magic and other stuff. And I started the lollipop, the trend with the lollipop everyone was doing. That's from my channel, because I did like 100 million views just on those videos. It was a whole series.
100 million views.
That just from the lollipops.
Just from lollipop videos. Yeah, it's rare that you post a video on YouTube that doesn't go viral. It seems like everything you post on the hardest platform performs amazingly. Well, you obviously have a strong eye for it. And we're getting off the question even.
I'm leading to the box. It's very important.
Hold on. Now that we're here and talking about it, I want to know a little bit of advice that you might offer to anyone interested in excelling on short form platform. Like any constructive advice would be great for the viewers and us.
don't be afraid to repost the same video, tweak it. If it doesn't go viral, people always think, oh, it goes viral. It's not, because I take it down. I look at what was performance. I look at the analytics. I change one thing. I had a video that I posted 20 times. It all failed. The one time it did 100 million. And the first time it did no one watched it. So I just tweak it and look and just be critical. And you know, a lot of problems with a lot of videos I see, especially magic videos, are too long. They're too long. Like too much crap in the middle, not enough at the start, not enough too much at the end. There's sometimes 7 or 8 seconds where it's just dead time. I'm like, why haven't they cut there? But the thing is, I can't say that I could take someone else's videos and make them successful. I just know what I need to do. I know that for some weird reason, my voiceover stuff worked really well. I noticed, I played around with different things. But the reason I talk about this journey is because this is how I get into the box. And I get into the box because I start posting on Instagram, and one of my Instagram videos does 10 million views. And I get this invitation to this nightclub, and I look it up, and there's not really much about it. It's quite underground. It's quite a secret place. It's exclusive. It's where kings and queens go, and princes and royalty and famous people. So this is a big deal. This seems like this is the place I would have wanted to be my whole life, that I was finally getting to. So I walk in. They tell me. I suddenly realized that I'm in a place of this is a place where shock acts go, where you see extreme acts that you wouldn't see anywhere else in the world, and you see amazing circus performers, the best circus performers in the world, Cirque du Soleil, but also the best, like almost like a modern day show of shock stuff and artistic things and musicality things, places you wouldn't. I won't describe some of the acts, but they are. If you look at the surface, it could seem quite shocking. But then when you realize there's a story and a movement and a reason and a political thing behind it, you suddenly realize that actually what you're seeing is art. It just, at the face of it, it can seem shocking. But when you look deeper, there's more to it. So suddenly I found myself at this place, and I'm there to blow bubbles. And I don't know what type of stuff they do. I just know that they want me to do bubbles on stage. So I didn't know that the whole point of their show was their shows are only 15 minutes long at the start, and they basically have a singer, so a chanteuse, a compere who gets them all riled up, and then they have 3 acts. One is like, and they're all kind of like sexy themed and shocking themed acts and skilled acts. As I said, some of the best performers in the world I've ever seen. I've seen them at the box, and then they have 2 of those shows. So I didn't know. So there's me on stage for 10 minutes doing bubbles. And bear in mind, I've never done bubbles on any stage in my life. I've been doing bubbles in my house. I've never been on a stage doing bubbles. I have no idea how to construct a show of bubbles. I'm just a guy stood there like trying to get things to work. I didn't know about air quality. I didn't know about the space. I didn't know anything. I just knew, but I didn't pretend to know anything. I told them, I said, I've never done this. I just do it on the internet for fun. I was honest with them. I told them that. So I turn up. I do that. It doesn't go well. It's not a success. I knew I hadn't done well when no one was really talking to me, and I was just packing away all my stuff. And I get chatting to them. So what this guy, lovely guy, called Bryn, and I just say, oh, he goes, oh, how talking about the bubbles. I went, oh, I'm actually a magician. He went, oh, I love magic. We're looking for a magician. Can you do some magic? And then I say, yeah, I got something in my bag. So I just do a couple of things quick off the cuff, not even planned to do magic. Just happened to have some bits in my bag. Do that. He's like,
you just happen to have a brick strapped to your back.
At that point, I wasn't really doing that stuff anymore. Like I moved on, and I didn't really know where I it's funny, I hadn't done magic for years because of COVID. I've been doing the bubbles. I wasn't really thinking about magic. I hadn't even done a magic trick to anyone in 2 years. Like, other than a few bits online, I haven't really done magic at this point for a long time. So I just had my cards in my bag, and I cut my Qube because I like playing with those things. And I just did something quick off the spot. And then he said, this is going to sound crazy. Is there anything else you can do? And I went, oh yeah, do you want to see something really mad? I'm a regurgitator. He went, what do you mean? I went, you got some water in the coin? And I started doing the coin and the regurgitation on the, and he went, and everyone just went, why did you not tell us that? Do you want a job? Like, I went, well, I was here for a job. He went, yeah, not the bubbles. Fuck that. We want that. Excuse my language. We want that.
You're fired, but now we want to can we rehire you again? But now,
yeah. Well, I think once and they started asking me questions like, and they're like, we don't have anyone that can do this, and we got the space downstairs, and we want to make it edgy, and we're looking for a magician, but we want someone that's edgy and does magic and shocking.
But
and
let's be clear about this, because listeners might not understand what you mean by regurgitator. We just kind of glossed over, and maybe explain what this is.
Well, basically, I feel like everyone knows this. I have the ability.
Maybe not there. There's a guy that doesn't. So talk to him.
Okay, sorry. I just always presume it's a bad habit. Like, I can swallow objects and bring them back. So, like, I can swallow a coin, I can swallow smoke, a lit cigarette, water, sugar. For real, no trick. It seems like a trick. Everyone's always asking me what the trick is. It's no trick. I've done it under X-ray and the real deal. And then I can bring back the smoke or the cigarette or the smoke or the water, and I can even bring the sugar back last if I want to, dry. And these are just something I was born with. I've had this since I was a kid. I'm what you call a natural born regurgitator. I think that's the term for it.
And you can go distance. I've seen you in action. You're like a fountain. It's
well, I was born. I've always been able to do it since I was a little boy, and it just I've never really thought of it as anything. I did it in my magic. I use it as a holdout mainly, and I did a couple of tricks for my friends. Because you imagine this, I can do the best bite out coin you've ever seen. Coin can be examined and signed. I can bite it out, spit it, and then hand it back out. No one else, like, you have to have my ability to be able to do that, but I can do that. So I used it to switch things and change things in magic. But I used to do it for my friends, and then I used to do it at conventions, and I would get told off at the convention. So I would secretly go to the toilet at Vanishing Ink, and I would be in the toilet for about an hour just showing people the regurgitation, and then they'd be like, have you been regurgitating again? And then
been to the bathroom theater.
Yeah, so when David Blaine did it and started water spout, and everyone went, oh, this is amazing.
Now it's cool.
Like, now it's cool. It's like, now I'm no longer really getting to the bathroom. The next thing I know, the next year I'm on stage at the session performing it, getting a standing ovation. And they took me to America. It's funny how value, anyway. And then obviously things opened up for me for that and TV and things. But then obviously COVID happened, and then being a regurgitating COVID. And that's why I never mentioned it to the box, because I thought that was done. I thought I was never regurgitating again on stage. I didn't think that act was happening again. I thought the world didn't want that anymore. So in my brain, I didn't even think about it as a thing when I went into the box. And I didn't think it was the thing that was going to get me a job. But when the
world was like, we're not doing French Kiss anymore, you're like, well, I probably shouldn't throw up anymore either.
Well, it's not throwing up, because I feel that's a disservice for it, because when you throw up, you retch your body. It's disgusting. It smells. When I do it, it's like breathing. It's like, imagine you put a bit of water in your mouth and you spat out, and that's what it's like for me. Like I can just do it. So it's no smell. There's no thing. It's all clean. It's more.
I'm curious. At the box, Kieron and I had a few sessions online back during the pandemic, and you had mentioned you were doing the Mullica cigarette routine as part of your. Is that still in your repertoire?
No, I did it once for a week. I know, like, obviously he says don't do it, but when you buy the books, but I just wanted to see if I could do it. So I did it for a week. Did I do it as well as him? I would say probably I did it 1% good. I didn't have what he had to do it. I could do it, and the difference between me and Mullica was I just swallowed them, and then I water spouted, and then when I got backstage, I did what I needed to do. But so I would purposely let the cigarettes burn and set fire to the napkin in my mouth, because I could just put the fire up.
You could share the pretext you're performing in here. Like, what was your character in the show? Because imagine seeing this.
I was playing a homeless guy that walks on, and he's drunk, and basically the idea of him is he lights a cigarette, but he forgets that he's lit a cigarette, so he lights another one, and then he accidentally eats a cigarette, but he doesn't realize he's doing it, and before he knows it, he's got loads of cigarettes, but he's so drunk, and he's drinking and eating crisps, and before you know it, he's got a mouthful of cigarettes, but doesn't really know what to do with them because he's trying to get to his drink. So it wasn't just a context of I'm going to be Monica. It was a character, and he was drunk. And
I think this image kind of summarizes what the box is.
Yeah. And I used to do close-up magic upstairs as well. And I would walk around with a torch in my mouth, and you can't talk to anyone. And I would walk and do magic and do it in a very hard environment where you can't explain to them what's going on. You're not.
So you're just spotlighting visual moments.
But not so much. I was doing like proper routines, but but because I had so many good mentors like Rosewood, and obviously the owner was really supportive, and just all these wonderful people in my life, that I just learned how to perform without saying anything, and I was able to perform tricks like card and wallet and things like that, and captivate the whole room with the area just with my body language. And that was a really interesting space. And so when Teller came, he followed me around the tables. So there's the king of silent magic watching me do silent magic with a torch in my mouth. So that was a lot of stress. Yeah,
I mean,
he was really nice.
No pressure.
The idea of like, I'm not saying this is what you did, but like I can just imagine Teller following you around, and he's like, how are you going to get this noisy in this environment, these people's attention, and you just walk up and grab their cigarette and swallow it while it's lit or something? Like, your abilities. Of course, you didn't do it, but that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, isn't it? It's easy to think, oh, that's what he did. I opened up with a Rubik's Cube, and the Rubik's Cube in the hat and things. I was doing classic magic. I was doing sign the card, but I was doing classic magic. And occasionally I might do the tic tac eye, or swallow the sugar and bring the sugar back dry, or smoke something. But generally, I was doing classic magic, but I was just able to do that, and I wasn't doing like I stopped doing my lollipop production trick because I felt like that was too needy for an audience like this, because this is a very rich audience. So I just did good magic, but without talking, silent, and I was able to win the crowd over through my body language, and that, like, I guess in my mind it was so good they had to watch. They had no choice but to watch. Where other magicians who'd done that environment before died and couldn't get them to watch, I was able to bring them in, and Teller was very complimentary. He said I had good flow and good grasp of how to things. He gave me a bit of advice as well on things, which was really good and helpful. But and I think that was really important for me, because I think sometimes when I talk about the regurgitation, people then think that's what I do. But when I was doing upstairs, I was doing more classic magic. When I go downstairs where I was talking, then I would do the water spouting and the sugar and the more risky thing in the private rooms when they paid a bit extra to see something really shocking. And again, mixing that with magic and stuff. And really interestingly, learning how to control very rich people and get them to watch me. Because bear in mind that they go to this place to drink and have fun. They didn't go to see a magician. And also, like, I'm an older magician. I'm not a good looking guy in the sense of, like, some guys, like, you look at Ben Hart, he's a very good looking guy. He's very striking. You watch him, you go, ooh. I'm more like, who's this homeless guy? But I learned that how to control an environment there, and I always put myself on the floor when I performed there. I never did it standing up, because I found that if you stood up, there was a lot of resistance from these people. So when I went lower than them, what I realized is I could control their eye line, because they would look down. So even though I was in a subservient position, I call it doming from the bottom technique. I was able to
control. It's a great tactic used by buskers. Wow. Even, if you're on the street, and that same confrontational dynamic can be avoided by going low, and even not looking the audience in the eye when you're asking them to do things.
Yeah, so really, I found that was working for me there and stuff. And eventually I met my friend was working on a show for the Showman, and then after the box, because the other thing is, not only did I do magic at the box, I also performed musicality acts on the stage, opposite cigarettes, regurgitation. I had an act where I would play a drunk guy, and basically his whole thing was he was a rich drunk guy, drank too much, and he was walking around and he started stealing everyone's drinking, and then it turned out he wasn't really rich. He couldn't afford to pay his bill. So rather than pay his bill, he brings back the liquid and starts filling the glasses back up and loses control, and the waitress ends up getting covered in water. But the whole point of the space is everyone thinks that I'm this drunk lout. And I remember one time I was performing there, and the director of the Transformers movies, Michael Bay, was there. And so I have my drink on the table, and I just literally because I'm in character, I'm just by his space, I'm moving around. He doesn't like me very much. The waitress comes over, moves my bottle, I scream at her. He's getting security to try and get me out of the building. And the security, like, obviously know I'm an act, and he's like now stressing out. So then I go into the act, and then I see him afterwards. He's like, I didn't realize you were an actor. You were really good. So I thought he took my business card. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to be in the Michael Bay movie, but it never happened. But it was pretty cool. And that's the really cool thing about that space of like giving you the freedom to express yourself and try these new things, that you're doing these crazy things in this environment. And then, so when you go into close-up magic and go into a corporate event, it all seems quite mundane and boring, really.
True. Yeah, everyone's very polite, and they'll stand and watch you and clap politely if you don't, break them in with something wild. Is there anything else you've noticed about performing for these wealthy people that you speak of? Like, when you're in that environment where there's just so many in one space, is there anything else you've noticed? Like,
they're just regular people. They're nice, but they just want to be entertained like anyone else. I think the really cool thing I learned is I never treated anyone any different. I never have. I don't care if you have money or not money. And I think that's the ethos of the box as well. They don't care if you have money or not. Everyone's the same. It might not seem like that from the outside, but it very much is inside. Everyone's on equal footings in that space. And there's lots of really interesting power things going on there. But I just treated them like I would treat anyone else. I never put anyone on a pedestal, but I never put anyone down either. So I found that when I was working for these people, that I was just like a chat, and I became friends with some of them, and would chat to these people. It was I just treated them like anyone.
I've noticed, if anything, they actually enjoy magic more somehow. Like, they're open to the experience because they're not, at least in my experience, trying to prove that they're the biggest in the room, because they're already comfortable in, like, because they're Michael Bay already. So they're just happy to sit there and relax.
Yeah. Talent knows talent.
Yeah, I found that. And Michael Bay used to do magic as well when he was little. So we talked about that.
Get out.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And
we got a couple of questions here in the comments, if we could shoot them at you, Kieron. So someone, Tim Askin was asking if you ever swallowed anything that you weren't able to return, like it went all the way and you weren't able to get back up again.
One time I was in the car and I was followed 5 coins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was just practicing for fun. And I literally got distracted. I don't know what happened. My phone rang. I forgot they were in me. And I didn't even think about it. It wasn't like I couldn't bring them back. I just forgot. And then I went around my day. And then I went, about 5 hours later, I went, oh my God, I never brought those coins back. And I tried finding them, and I'm like, they've gone. And I remember looking 3 days later in the bathroom. I flushed the toilet, and when I looked down, perfectly in a line, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coins with the numbers.
That is a crazy statement. I forgot they were in me. That is wild.
I got distracted. I forgot. And I forgot to bring them back. But yeah, I've never lost anything that I couldn't bring back. No. But that was the only time.
It's different to say you lost something versus I'll get it later. Like that is like, I'll get it tomorrow after my strong latte. Like that's a different trick. But there is another trick here asking, is there a limit to how many times a day it can be done, or is that not a problem?
My wife doesn't like me doing it so much, so she's really pleased that I'm not doing it at the box as much doing it, because she was worried about. No one really knows what the health limits are, but all we know is that most regurgitators die young. Sorry, I should laugh about that. But generally, I think it's because they're swallowing things they shouldn't be swallowing, like gasoline and petrol and stuff, and I'm not that stupid. You know, I always keep it clean. I don't even swallow a billiard ball, because most regurgitators deaths have died from a billiard ball. So if I do I never think large objects are amazing. Everyone else goes, "Oh, what's the biggest object you can swallow?" I'm like, I like the artistry of the control, like smoking a vape and then swallowing the sugar and the water and then saying, "What do you want back? Do you want the water? Do you want the vape? Do you want the sugar?" I like that, but I think that's more of a magician approach to it than maybe an audience who want to see shocking things are looking like. But I feel like I've not answered this question, but in terms of limit, as long as I don't eat and I'm clean, I could do it all day. Yeah, so that's right. But as soon as I eat, then I can swallow coins if I've eaten, and I can swallow sugar, and I can but the water when I've eaten is hard. Like, so I don't. I can do it. I can do it, but I don't like doing it.
Yeah. So it seems like you can almost like compartmentalize what's in your stomach, like you have separate compartments. Is that what I'm hearing?
It sounds like it, but no. I kind of just put it in different places, and so I guess so. But no, I don't. My stomach's the same as everyone else, but I can just hold things. If that probably doesn't make any sense anyway. And you know, when I start saying this, I then feel like I'm lying, even though I know I'm not. But then I feel like a liar. The smoke just kind of exists in my stomach. The water is at the bottom, and then I kind of keep the sugar before it hits the water. I'm kind of holding it. So imagine like you're holding it like a fist. I'm just holding it where I need to hold it. The same way.
So it's like a backpack. So it's like a
backpack. Yeah, like a backpack.
Right. Yeah. It's a big bag. You've got your lunchbox over here, your water bottle over there. Same thing. You can keep your water here, sugar there.
Yeah. And
it's like you have a conscious control of the muscles within those areas.
That's the best way. And when I did it on the X-ray, the doctors went, "We're going to prove you're a fake." Because my mate's a magician, he's a doctor, and he told them all about me. They went, "There's no way anyone could do this." And I did it on the X-ray under the proper conditions. They put this stuff inside me, and I started doing it, and they just started freaking out.
That's the best. That's
my brain just went somewhere. I get this idea of you being like, "Sir, you need to pay for your coffee." You're like, "Nope."
So how does this lead into now performing in The Greatest Showman?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mad place to go from, isn't it, to The Greatest Showman, to go from but The Greatest Showman is probably a good fit, because The Greatest Showman is based on P.T. Barnum. It's the circus. P.T. Barnum had a regurgitator. He had the Great Waldo. So they had these type of people in their show. So it's kind of a good fit, and really, when you think about it, because I'm kind of the guy they would have had in their circus anyway back in the old days. But originally, I wasn't meant to be there. I was there to teach one of the singers how to do magic. One of the producers really wanted me in the show, but they wanted their singers to be able to do other skills. So they wanted the singer to be the magician. And I think with close-up magic, I think because you can do stuff on stage, I think sometimes people think close-up magic's easy to learn. And I think they forget that just even fanning a pack of cards or springing a pack of cards takes time. And I think they thought, oh, you could just spring the cards and do some stuff. But the guy, he just didn't have a good time, I don't think. I think he wanted to sing, and I don't really know much about what happened. But anyway, I turned up to give him my lesson, and they said, "Oh, he's gone." I went, "Oh, when's he coming back?" He went, "Oh, he's not. Can you just step in this room?" I went, "Right." He went, "We're just going to fit you up for a costume. Can you do 3 weeks?" And I went, I need to speak to my wife, because she was about to start a job as a teacher, a teaching course. My daughter was starting school. We didn't know how, obviously, because she has Downs, we didn't know how she was going to settle in the school. So it was probably the worst time to get a job. But at the same time, it would be stupid to turn down this, because it was an opportunity. So I couldn't believe I was debating whether I was going to do this or not. It's like finally the dream comes true, and then my life isn't at the right point for this. But we figured things out, and friends come and help, and family help, and the school's like, you can't turn down this opportunity. We'll help you with Ellie. We'll make sure that she's okay. So suddenly this support, because everyone else says you can't give up on this. My wife's like, you can't give up on this. So I do 3 weeks, and they said, oh, we want you to stay for a bit. We don't really know how to fit in. So why don't you just do the weekends? I'm like, sweet. I'll just do the weekends, do that in the box. That's great. I'll just do both. Well, sweet gig. So I did that for a few months. And then they said, oh, we kind of like realized that when you're not here on the Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's not as good. But can you just do the Wednesdays and Thursdays? I went, actually, can you just stay 2 years? so
Nice.
Yes.
and the thing is, they didn't really know what I was going to do. So they said, can you do something on stage? And I did some stuff on stage. And then one day I decided, like 4 days in of trying different things, I said, why don't I just do the bubbles? I've only ever done it on stage a couple of times, but maybe I should do that. So I started doing the bubbles, and it was a bit okay. But then one day, like a few days in, I just said, do you want to know how this happened? How I became a bubble guy? And I started telling the story of my daughter at the show, and how I became a bubble guy, and how everything was accident, and whether we believe in fate and all that stuff. And that the director was like, that's a really good, just keep that. So I started doing that, and that show grew from there. And I was doing close-up magic in a tent parlor style and stuff. And then they had a juggler, but he broke his foot, and they didn't have a spot. They said, do you want to do 10 minutes of magic? And at the first couple of weeks, it was a bit spotty, but again, worked with the director on it. And now there's a small, because I do all the pre-show stuff, so it fits about 250, 300 people. So now I do the pre-show magic, and then as soon as I've done the magic, I have a minute break and let the audience fill out, we refill it, and then I do the bubble show. So now I'm like on stage every day, like doing 25 minutes of bubbles and magic, and then I also do one set of parlor magic before that, and that, which is a storytelling piece, and then I go and do the VIP area for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then
they're getting their money's worth out of you, huh? Jeez, they're loving you. No wonder they want you there every day.
Oh, I love it though.
Yeah,
I like the opportunity to get better, and a place that will let me experiment. And if I say I want to try a new piece, they'll work with me on it. I decided for a Lincoln Ring. We worked for it. We put a lot of effort into it. I did it 10 times. It was terrible, but they let me do it. It wasn't like the worst thing, but it just wasn't as good as I was trying to do a voiceover thing, and I lost a lot of my personality. And the director's like, we're losing your personality. We're losing who you are, and this isn't working. And I went, no, it's not working. But to have a place and a director that will just give me that space is amazing.
Wow. And now you're at the point where you're performing. We were talking about this off air. 7 shows a week, right? 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Doing magic in the show.
And occasionally at the box now and again. The box is really cool because they kind of like said I have an open invitation to be there when I need to. So it's nice, like to have that there and stuff. But they're very supportive. They were like really pleased that this happened for me. So that was really nice, going from a venue that like they're very proud of me to be where I am. So
I have a question. Doing all of this, right? So thousands of people are coming and they're seeing you at the Greatest Showman or at the box, then you have this massive following on all the social pipes. Do you look at them as completely different entities? Like, I'm entertaining completely different people? Or because what's the choice that you made where you're like going to stick to bubbles, for example? Like, a lot of your work is bubbles, they do really well, but like someone who sees you, or someone who knows you as a magician like me, knows you've created all these crazy magic effects that I wouldn't see you do on the socials. So like, do you just split them in your head and they earn you money in different ways as different things or different audiences? Or like, what was your choice? Because it seems like a wild choice to like not link them to what you do in real life as to what you do online, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it has hurt me. Like before the Showman, people would go like, they recommend me for a gig, and then the client, it'd be a high end. They're like, "But where's your magic?" Like, I just see bubbles, and they're like, And I'm like, well, I do magic as well. But it's fair. But I think for me is a lot of times I was kind of scared to put my magic on social media because I figured, right, if it's bubbles, they can't really hurt me because, like, but with magic, I just felt vulnerable. And I guess that's why I never really put it online, or if I did something with a tap or regurgitation because I figured that was no one can it's not that I don't like being criticized. I do, but I just don't think I could take it online.
Yeah, people are jerks online, bunch of jerks.
Yeah,
I can take it with the body stuff, and I can take it with the bubbles, but I'm not like I love magic so much. And also the other thing is other magicians watch my stuff, and I got nothing against other magicians. I love other magicians. I hate people that go, I hate magicians. I met a magician the other day who came to the showman that told me he hated everything about magicians. Don't understand that attitude. Never, if that's your opinion, that's fine. But for me, I love magicians. I went to the session, I had the best time. I'm surrounded by people who love the art of what I do. Why would I not like you? You share my interest. I could talk about, this is the one space where I can talk about stuff and you understand what I'm talking about. I want to be in that environment. I want to find someone that's really good at a sleight of hand move that I don't know, and then it's going to help me. I'm not afraid of going, I don't understand something, because I know that I need that to get better. If I start going, I'm great, then I'm just some guy that never gets great. Or if I'm a guy that understood. But I think with online stuff, I don't know. I just felt very vulnerable, and I guess I didn't need to do it. And I kind of like the fact that I have this other outlet creatively, and then I get to do my magic on privately, and I feel like it's a mystery I get to keep as well. So, but I think I wouldn't be opposed against doing magic now online. I just don't feel like I need to. But at the beginning, it was more of a scared of doing magic online. But also, like, the other thing is, I don't want to do tricks and then someone else copies me. I want to keep a lot of my new work to myself, my new ideas. If I do share it, I share it with close friends. I'm trying to keep a lot of my new work to myself.
Yeah, that's an interesting point as well. In the past, like you said, you see all these magicians on TV and everything doing effects you created. So is that what led you to now want to keep some of the new Kieron stuff to yourself?
Well, I think I still do my classics, but I also have loads of new material that I like working on myself. And I think I feel like when you publish something, you give a part of yourself to that piece. I watched a kid do one of my tricks the other day, and they were talking about it, and I'm like, and I asked them why they do it, and they went, "Oh, because it gets good reaction." And then I was telling them why that piece was written, and this guy was like, he didn't even know I wrote it. And I was like, that, and he went, "No, that's not why it's written. It was just written because it's a good trick." I went, "No, it's written because of this." And he didn't know. I never told him. I thought it was really interesting that they don't know why these pieces existed. I wrote the lollipop trick originally with the card and the production because I felt not good enough for my audience, and I wanted them to like me. So I started doing that trick because I thought that was going to make people like me. And now I just see people doing it because it gets a good reaction. But I wrote that because I was looking for a piece that liked me. I wrote The Ice from Fire because I was feeling really confident. My life was going great. I didn't have much money, but I was happy with my wife, and I was reading Bellini, and I wanted to have that feeling of what if I could do that, So ironically, feeling cool and confident about myself. When I did Card and Ice, I just did it because I wanted to be the guy that put the card in the ice, and I wanted to be the first person to seal it. I did that for vanity. It was done. Card and Ice exists purely for vanity. The signed card and the signed Rubik's Cube and jar, which most people don't even remember, is mine. I wrote that because I was grieving and I was sad and I was not in a good place mentally. Me and my wife were going through a lot of time. I wrote that because I just needed to focus my mind on something. So that's why I created that. I wrote the can trick because it was a practical joke on friends. We were in I used to wash dishes. Everyone was allowed one can. Everyone would put the can on the shelf. Everyone would steal the other person's can. I thought it'd be hilarious to make all the cans have different liquids. It's a joke. It's a practical joke. It was never meant to be a trick. It was just a joke, So all these pieces have like different connotations, Stickman Bob is written because I love Dan Harlem's cartoon, and that's the trick that made me become a magician. And I wanted to bring that trick into a 3D world. So I wanted the cannon to really fire through the cards. I wanted to create his trick, but not have it animated. I wanted to bring it to life. And that's why Stickman Bob exists. So these pieces weren't just written because I was looking for a trick. They were written because of the way I was feeling, or the space, But people don't know that, The chocolate bar exists. Why does the chocolate bar exist? Because I kept forgetting oranges were in my bag. They kept rotting. And I go back to my bag, and the week after, they go, oh, bleh. So I went, I need to find a new way of doing this because I'm forgetting to take these oranges out. Oh, you know what? I'll do a chocolate bar. I didn't know because I can't keep doing this to myself every week.
I can't tell you how much I needed to hear this because I was having a discussion with some friends about my show the other day that I've got coming up. And so I'm scripting everything, and the effects are the effects, but everything that you're saying is the exact same motivations I have, where it's like, I'm not trying to make the storyline the throughput or the forefront of it. It's the breadcrumb that's sort of sprinkled throughout the routine that shows a piece of yourself, a part of yourself that you would only know if you know. And there's that, and I think that adds so much depth to your routines. Do you have advice for folks who are creating stuff like consider these three things? Consider what message you want to portray, how to inject parts of yourself, express personality. Do you have any advice for that nature when creating?
Yeah, be selfish. Create for yourself. Don't create for an audience. Be selfish. That's the opposite advice anyone would give you. They go, create commercial effects. Don't screw commercial. I used to carry a tin of beans hot in my pocket. That was not commercial. I did that because I wanted to do it. So create the tricks that you want to perform. Don't think about whether it's practical. Don't think whether it's going to even work. It probably won't. But don't think about in terms of, am I going to sell it later? Just create the tricks you want to create. And if it works, amazing. If it doesn't work, try again. And if it doesn't work the first time, don't give up. Do it again and again. And if it doesn't work after 10 times, then don't do it. Because and just experiment and play, and just don't be afraid. Don't think of, one of the things, we often talk, the thing I always think about is there is always a new audience, whether that's on TikTok, social media, real life. There is always someone new, and not everything you're going to work is going to work for everyone. But if you can be hands on your heart, it works for you. That's what you should do. No one else's opinion matters in this world other than your own opinion. It doesn't. We can have people that come into our life and tell us, "Oh, this is what you should do," or do that. But ultimately, the only person that can make a decision on what you do is you. And I failed. I failed on stupid tricks that you shouldn't fail on, because I think any trick you do, even if it's new, even if it's self-working, you can fail because you might not know things that you don't account for, or the person that sold if I do a commercial piece, they might have not had these problems because they probably didn't do it that much, so in terms of you're gonna fail, and I think in Sideshow there's this saying, it's not if it goes wrong, it's what you do when it goes wrong. And I think it's how you handle that. And I find having to handle failure on stage at the Showman, with the bubbles, the heat, the air, and even with the magic, but picking myself up and then, that doesn't work, but do this, and now, sorry, going on.
No, that's, hey, the greatest episodes are when we're not the ones talking. This is phenomenal stuff.
Yeah,
especially when Josh isn't the one talking.
Yeah, I mean,
but
did I tell you I used to be in a band? No.
But ultimately, we say it all the time. We have to be ourselves. But how often are we doing this? How often we trying to be someone else? And I think sometimes as the magicians, we delude ourselves, don't we? We buy a trick, or we learn a trick from a book, and we go, I do it different. I'm not like that guy. But the truth is, you probably do exactly the same. But we have to tell ourselves this, because this is a lie we have to tell ourselves to feel like we're not frauds. But I think there's an honesty of going, you know what? I am doing it like that guy. But how? And I should do it like that guy for a bit. Then how can I put bits of me in it? How can I make it mine? How do I make it flow for me? So if someone else does that trick, it doesn't feel like the same trick. Even if it is the same trick, how does it not feel like the same trick? And And I think also just again that concept of just having fun with your magic and not thinking there's rules. I think as soon as you put rules, practice is important, but I think that there's no rules in magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Testify.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what? We should have made this a 5-hour episode because I'm so interested right now, but we are coming to an end already. So just stay tuned for the part 5 and 6 that'll come out over the next coming months and years. Whenever he has time, when he's not doing 7 shows a week. Kieron,
I think what we're saying is that there was such a beautiful amount of knowledge you just shared, and obviously our time is nearly up. And so I guess on behalf of all of us here, as well as our listeners, like, please say you'll come back and chat to us again.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I feel like everyone knows this stuff, but I know that isn't the truth. But yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. I could talk about it all day. The thing is, like, I think it's so hard in this world to be different. But I think but also at the same time, everyone is different, right? Some people like things with sugar. We're all individuals. So if you can make your magic individual and be true to yourself, I think the problem with me is I never chased money, and because of that, there was a lot of struggle. But now I somehow accidentally got into a job where I get to be an artist and a performer. And I realize how lucky I am to be in a space like that.
Fortune favors the prepared.
Just wasn't so prepared. It's funny how all these things are accident, isn't it? And the funny thing is, if I hadn't started doing the bubbles, I wouldn't be here now. That's true.
It's not funny. It's a life where you're willing to take risks and work hard. So, that's not an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You started doing the thing that you enjoyed doing, even if bubbles weren't going to work on stage that you didn't know if you bloody gave it a try. Look, this is too good. So we're going to end our episode in the way we always do, which is by giving our guest the final word.
Hello, Kieron the Mighty here. I guess final word is try and be true to yourself and do the tricks you like. If you like the tricks you like, the audience will like. And not be afraid, obviously ask for opinions, but the only opinion at the end of the day matters is your own opinion. And, you can film your show and you can be looking back at it and go, it's good. I personally never film shows. I saw an interview the other day that says if you want to get better, you have to film shows. But I think there's something Daryl once told me, and this was really interesting. And I thought this was one of the best advices. Always practice in front of a mirror. And then his next advice was, don't practice in front of a mirror. There's different ways of practicing. Maybe that will work for you, maybe it won't. But, at the end of the day, I think the takeaway from it is just find your own way. So I hope that helps. Peace.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.